Hello, everyone. I hope you guys had a fabulous weekend. Back to school this week. So we are going to be talking about simplest radical form today, and that is an exact answer. If it's an exact answer, that means you cannot round. For example, oops, and my pen came in and it doesn't work. Yay. All right, so I'll be writing my finger again. For example, the square root of 7. The square root of 7 is an exact answer. So on today's homework, they want exact answers. You do not put that into the calculator and get whatever the decimal would be of that. That would be between square root of 4 is 2, square root of 9 is 3. That's between 2 and 3. You can put in your calculator, find out what it is, but today all of your answers are going to be in what's called simplified radical form. There's a couple things you need to know about simplified radical form. Let me give you another example, is a square root of 45. That is also an exact answer, but that is not simplified. Whoever decided on radicals wrote rules for radicals, and they got to follow rules like we do sometimes. So with the square root of 45, you can't have a perfect square inside the square root of 45, and there is. 9 is a factor of 45. So I could actually write this as the square root of 9 times the square root of 5. All right, since 9 is a perfect square, I got to get that out of there. So now what is the square root of 9? The square root of 9 is 3, the square root of 5 is the square root of 5. So 3 times the square root of 5 is what's in called simplest radical form, as is the square root of 7. All right, let's do another example. So one of the rules about simplified radical forms is that you cannot have a perfect square underneath the radical sign. So let's do another one. Let's say the square root of 32. All right, so is that in simplified radical form? Are there any perfect squares in the square root of 32? There is. 16 goes into the square root of 32. So I would rewrite this as 16 times the square root of 2. Square root of 16 is 4. Square root of 2 is the square root of 2. So now 4 square root of 2 is in simplified radical form. If you write it any other way, if you write it as the square root of 2, they're not going to, square root of 32, they're not going to mark it as correct. Okay, another rule with simplified radical form is that you cannot have a square root on the bottom. Because back in the day before calculators, they didn't want to divide by the square root of 2. It's a lot easier to divide by 2 than cut something in half than divide by the square root of 2. So why we still need to put it in simplified radical form, I'm not really sure, but I don't get to make those decisions. All right, so if we have something like, let's say 5 divided by the square root of 2, okay? Back in the day before calculators, they couldn't divide by the square root of 2, so you had to get rid of that divided by the square root of 2. How do you get rid of it? This is your trick. You multiply by the square root of 2. Oops, actually, I'm going to do this in a different color. Okay, so you're going to multiply this by, how about green? You're going to multiply by that by the square root of 2 divided by the square root of 2. All right, so why are we doing this? Not okay. All right. On the bottom, we're going to have, all right, so we took 2 square right. So we have 5 divided by the square root of 4. So guess what the square root of 4 is? 2. So the bottom will always end up being a whole number. So we end up with 5 divided by the square root of 2, or 5 times the square root of 2 divided by 2. That is in radical form. So you can never leave a square root in the bottom and have it be in radical form. Back in the day, they did not, they did not want to divide by the square root of 2. They did not want to do that. Instead, back in the day before calculators, they could easily, for them, divide by 2. But not easy to divide by the square root of 2. All right, I'm going to do one more example of this, and then we will move on to how this applies to tonight's homework. All right, so let's say we have like 10 divided by the square root of 3. All right, so what will that look like? Well, first of all, we are going to multiply by the square root of 3 divided by the square root of 3. So what is that going to be? That's going to be 10 times the square root of 3 divided by the square root of 3 times 3, which is 9. So now we're going to end up with 10 times the square root of 3 divided by 3. And that is in simplified radical form. All right. Okay, next. Okay, back to the 45, 45, 90 triangles. When you have a 45, 45, 90 triangle, we talked about this, you only need one side of a 45, 45, 90 because two of the sides are the same. So if you know what this side is, let's say that this side is 3, okay, then you know that this side is 3. So then how do you find the third side? Well, you can simply just use a squared plus b squared is equal to 3 squared. I'm sorry, a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So you do 3 squared plus 3 squared is equal to c squared. I'm going to have to move this down a little bit. Sorry. So we're going to get 9 plus 9 is equal to c squared. So 18 is equal to c squared. It's an 18. All right, so now we take the square root of both sides, so we get c is equal to the square root of 18. All right, now we cannot leave that as the square root of 18, and we can't use our calculator, because on tonight's entire assignment, they're going to ask for simplified radical form. So in the square root of 18 is a factor of 9. So we can rewrite this as the square root of 9 times the square root of 2, because 9 times 2 is 18. So the square root of 9 is 3, so that's 3 times the square root of 2. And that is equal to c, and that would be your final answer. C is equal to 3 times the square root of 2. All right, now that works. Every time you do that, those two sides are the same. Now you could also do this one a different way. The ratio of the sides of a 45 is 1 square root of 2. If you want to do that, you certainly could. So under the 3, under the 1 would be 3, and under the 2 would be, I'm going to make those all equal. So cross multiply 1. So when I cross multiply, oh my goodness. Okay. When I cross multiply, let's say I decide to cross multiply here to get. If you look down below, that is what we got, 3 times the square root of 2. Okay, when in fact, the hypotenuse, if you want to memorize this, the hypotenuse, whatever the side is, it's an acid of, I'm going to just use x. The hypotenuse will always be x times the square root of 2. So the hypotenuse, how about the leg? The leg times the square root of, that will always be for 45, 45, 90, what the hypotenuse is. All right, so the leg, what would the leg be? The leg is the hypotenuse, and then we divide both sides by the square, and then you need to get that square root of 2 out of the bottom. So if you want to memorize these two, you certainly can. Or you can use a squared plus b squared equals c squared, or you can use 1 root 2. Just like in 30, 60, 90, we use 1 root 3, 2. Totally up to you. So hopefully that clarifies a 45, 45, 90 triangle. I know a couple of you had questions. All right, so let's do some problems that are going to look like on your homework. All right, so for this problem, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger or not. Okay, so for this problem, I'm going to look at the 30, 60, 90 first. Okay, so with the 30, 60, 90, we have a 30, 60, 90, and that's 1 root 3 and 2 every single time. That's how you set up a 30, 60, 90. All right, so across from the 60 is C, so I'm going to put that there. Across from the 30 is 5, so I'm going to put that there. And we don't care what the hypotenuse is. So I'm just going to put an 8 here, but it doesn't really matter because we're only trying to find C. So we're going to take these two together and then we're going to cross multiply. So that's going to be pretty simple. So we're simply going to get 1C is equal to 5 times the square root of 3. And that is pretty simple because it already is in simplified radical form. There's nothing else we need to do. All right, so now let's look at the 45, 45, 90. All right, so with the 45, 45, 90, if you want to set it up as 1, 1, root 2, you certainly can. It's totally up to you. So underneath, underneath the 45, across from the 45-degree angle is A. Across from the 45-degree angle, the other one, that would also be A, although we don't need them both. And across from the 90-degree angle is 7. So then you can simply cross multiply. So you get A times the square root of 2. So what am I doing? I am simply get out of there. Okay, well maybe when I write it. Okay. I am simply cross multiplying those two. So A times the square root of 2 is equal to 7. And then I divide both sides by the square root of 2. Get my A all by itself. Well, now I'm not in simplified radical form. So now I simply need to A is equal to 7 divided by the square root of 2. I'm going to multiply both sides by the square root of 2. So that would be 7 square root of 2 divided by the square root of 4. Square root of 4 is 2, so my final answer is 7 square root of 2 divided by 2. Now there's many, many other ways, as I showed you. There's two other ways to do a 45, 45, 90 triangle. I could also just know that the side is equal to the hypotenuse divided by the square root of 2. So if you want to memorize that, you can. The side, oops, okay, so we have the side is equal to the hypotenuse divided by the square root of 2. So that's going to be 7 divided by the square root of 2. So that, and then you would have to get it to be in that form. All right, now the third, okay. All right, the last way you can do this is you can do, those are both A's, so that's an A and that's an A. So you can simply just use A squared plus A squared is equal to 7 squared. So 2A squared is equal to 49. And then you can do A squared is equal to 49 divided by 2. And then you take the square root of both sides. So that's 7, square root of 49 is 7 divided by the square root of 2. And then once again, that 7 divided by the square root of 2 will also end up, when you multiply by root 2 over root 2, will also be 7 square root of 2 over 2. So you can see there's 3 different ways to do the same problem. All right, we're getting short on time, so I'm going to hustle up. All right, so we're going to do the 30, 60, 90 here. So with the 30, 60, 90, we have 30, 60, 90, 1, root 3, 2. You always set it up that way. So then we're going to do across from the 30 is B, and across from the 60 is 3. This is the hypotenuse. I don't ask for that, so don't worry about it. So here's my problem right here. So then I'm going to cross multiply. So I get 3 is equal to B times the square root of 3. Well, okay, I'm going to divide both sides by the square root of 3. So I get B is equal to 3 divided by the square root of 3. That is not in simplest radical form. So I need to multiply this by the square root of 3 over the square root of 3, and then I will get my answer. Okay, so that's going to end up being 3 times the square root of 3 divided by the square root of 9. Oops, sorry, square root of 9. All right, so that's going to, square root of 9 is 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So I'm just going to end up with the square root of 3 for that problem. Interesting. Okay. All right, for the last one, again, lots of ways to solve that. We solved one like it, 5, 5. So 5, this would be a 5 here. So 5 squared, 5 squared equals C squared. Or you can set up as 1, 1, root 2, and I'm running out of time. So have a fabulous day. If you have any questions, let me know. All right.